Hello YouTubers, Hammy Technoid here, and today we're looking at this little repair job I got going on the Harman Kardon CAD-4. I've been kind of working on it behind the scenes, and I got it up and running pretty good now. Before, when I first got it from eBay, it wouldn't fast forward or rewind. Okay, let me get a little closer here on the camera. Yeah, before it wouldn't fast forward or rewind, and it's in a disassembled condition right now. And you see, this is the tape drive here, and this is the take-up spindle, and this is the supply spindle. Okay, and before it wouldn't fast forward or rewind. So what I did is I replaced the belt because it had a flappy belt. And the belt that I got to replace it was a bit more robust than the stock factory belt. So when I put it in, I was able to get fast forward and rewind working, but the take up for the play wasn't going. The excess tension was keeping this guy here from pushing against the take up spindle. Now I'm going to show you something here that I did. These capacitors here, this one, and this one, I've just replaced. The stock factory ones were 1,000 microfarads at 16 volts. I've upgraded that to 1,500 microfarads at 25 volts. So everything is a bit more robust now. You see, here's the old ones, and yeah, that's them. There was 3 of them. So anyway, yeah, and I noticed one thing different when it powers up. Before, when it would power up, there would be a bump on the VU meters, and then there'd be a secondary bump. So let's watch that. Watch what happens now with the new capacitors. Okay, there's the primary big bump, and now there's no secondary bump. So the extra capacitance in the power supply apparently took care of that for some reason. I don't know. Extra capacitance, extra charge. Okay, more capacity to hold a charge. So anyway, yeah. Now, and with the more robust belt, I've noticed that the motor has quieted down a bit. You still have the little motor light that comes on when the motor is running, and yeah. So let's see. Fast forward. Okay, there's fast forward and stop, and there's rewind, and the counter belt is attached. Okay, and rewind is going, and we can stop, and now we can put it into play, and there the take-up spindle is working. And how I got that to work is I increased the tension on the take-up spindle. This guy right here. There's a spring underneath that you can't see that pulls it into the spindle there, the take-up, and I increased the tension on that, and thereby overriding the stronger belt. Okay, so now everything should be up and going with this guy. I'm going to reassemble it, put in a tape, and see how we go about calibrating the levels, because I know those are off. Well, here you can see that I've advanced pretty far in the disassembly of the CAD-4 here. You're looking at the underpart here, where I've taken apart the circuit board, and there were several points that I had to desolder, several wires. There's a pair right there that I had to desolder, and there's a pair there. But my main intention was to get to the belt, and look at this thing. It isn't even, flexible anymore. It wants to retain its shape. It's got that groove there, and it's got that bump there. So yeah, when I put in the new belt, all that's going to be taken care of, and I'm going to squish this area here with some cleaner, because the main thing about this guy is it doesn't want to fast forward and rewind. And I figured that maybe there's some gunk or something in there that needs to be washed away, so I'm going to fix that. But I'm going to plod on now and see how far I can get with this repair. We're back here with the Harman Kardon CAD-4, and I ran into a little snag. Apparently the motor here has got some issues and it needed cleaning, so I took off the little protective cap here, this little protective cap that was on top of it. So I removed that, and now that exposed this area here. So what I did is I got in there with some of this cleaning compound, this chlorofluorocarbo stuff, and yeah, I got in there, sprayed it with the nozzle. It got in these holes here. These holes allow me access, and I just soaked it with the stuff, you know, just soaked it. And that didn't help at first, so then I this little spindle in the middle there, I lubricated with some of this Deoxit 10S. X10S, okay, and that's a very, very recommended lubricant for tape decks and such. So I got some of that stuff on there, and so I'm gonna turn it on now. It was running before, and I was concerned that it might not run again, so I let it cool down a bit. But I'm gonna turn it on, get the motor light to come on, and I see the little spindle is spinning. So let's hit fast forward. Yay, fast forward. See, that was the issue. It wouldn't fast forward or rewind again, and now it's doing both. Okay, so apparently, hopefully that little spritz of stuff in the motor cleaned up whatever the problem was, and the lubricant as well. Okay, so this next step, I'm going to take a calibration tape. I took this tape here and run a 400 Hz tone on it, and I'm going to see if the meters respond, and from there I'm going to try and calibrate it. Well, it looks like this is it for this video. I've run into a few snags. I did solve the problem with the motor. The motor seems to be running steady now. I you know, lubricated it and cleaned it, and it rewinds steady, whereas before it was shutting down. It fast forwards steady, which is good. But one of the things I've noticed is since all this repair work I started, before, when I could play a tape, at least the meters would bump. They're not bumping now. This tape here that I have in here, on this side here, I have a 400 Hertz tone recorded. And I know it's there because I played it back on another machine. And if you look, there's absolutely no meter activity there. Nothing. Nothing is moving. And that should be in the 0 to +3 range, because it was recorded pretty heavy, hot, you know, for calibration purposes. And then I wanted to try and see, well, maybe it's just the playback that's messed up, and maybe the recording works. So I tried recording a tone on the other side, put it into record, play, and then hit the pause, and the tape is running. Okay, and I got my tone generator hooked up, my Tektronix, and I'm running it at 400 Hertz, a tone out. Got the amplitude up pretty good right there, you know, about over halfway. And then I would expect that this being in record mode, that if I turned up the volumes, I would get some meter activity. And again, no meter activity. So something is definitely wrong with the recording playback amp on this machine now. Whereas before, it would play something. The needle would bump a little. So there's something wrong with the connections. I've got to look into it further. So that's as far as I'm going on it this week. And I'll get back to it later. But for now, thanks for watching. See you later.